Every writer who's been working his craft long enough will have heard that 1. You don't start your story with exposition dumps. Dumps smell bad. And 2. You don't use prologues. Prologues smell bad. Admittedly, this second point is more a guideline than a rule, and one that really only applies to aspiring authors, not those who have already published and formed their sweet and juicy fan bases. That said, it is curious that HBO's The Last of Us chose to begin its telling by perpetrating both these sins. There is a prologue to the prologue, and it's all exposition. However, unlike this ongoing analogy, I would not say any of it is a dump. Quite the contrary. Every scene, no, every line in a story should have an objective. And as we may see in a future video, every line in a story should do more than one thing. With that in mind, the objective sought by this prologue is twofold. On the one hand, it seeks to introduce us to the scientific rationale that will explain the zombie outbreak characteristic of the series, i.e. world building. While on the other, it seeks to set the tone and stakes. It is very effective at both, but how? The reason it is not recommended to begin your story this way, with either exposition or prologues, is because they will at best slow down your story, often with information that is not crucial to have in the most crucial moment of your narrative, the moment that will determine whether your audience stays or leaves, the beginning, the hook. And at worst, it will impede a relevant connection between the audience and the characters. Seeing as this prologue is set 35 years before the events of its sequel, Prologue Part 2, featuring none of the protagonists and focusing solely on characters we probably won't see again, although I have my theories, It is safe to assume this makes it harder for the audience to connect to the narrative. So if the primary purpose of this scene was to set the tone early through a mix of exposition and stakes that will carry tension through prologue number 2, how do they make it relevant enough to hook the audience? And that's where it gets interesting. Is COVID still a get demonetized, fuck you, we will not show your content to anyone kind of topic here on YouTube? Yeah? Oh well, that's a shame. Whatever the case, if there is one good thing COVID gave us, it's this opening. You see, it is undeniable that the pandemic changed our lives. Depending on where you were and who you were, it might have been to a greater or lesser extent. Some countries took action faster, others slower. Some had the resources to do more, some had to have them borrowed. Some places were civil about their measures. Some instituted pseudo-military states where people were taken from their homes and locked up for the sake of preventative isolation. Plenty of those people being part of the political opposition who never tested positive for anything other than higher than average levels of cholesterol. Regardless, shit changed. You stopped going to work, school went remote. You had to worry about the health of those around you, and worst of all, pubs closed. Even you changed. And it all happened, at most, in a matter of weeks. This prologue leans on all those changes, on all the things you could not do, on the panic some felt, on the people others lost. This prologue is very deliberate in its language and not subtle at all when delivering its message. This prologue takes all of that so it can make you feel how what is about to happen on this show is going to be a million times worse than what you have already been through. And all of this is physically represented by our 2 epidemiologists, whose names we will change like it's a concentration camp because YouTube already hates this video anyway. This way, Dr. Schoenhuis will be renamed 19 because it represents
a global pandemic. Pan meaning all, the whole world becomes sick all at once.
And Dr. Newman will be Dingus because where Dr. 19 presents his greatest fear as the corona that is neither crown nor beer, Dr. Dingus, our protagonist for the scene, downplays the pandemic to show us something much scarier.
So fungus. Viruses can make us ill, but fungi can alter our very minds.
So everything we have been through, he remains completely unfazed by. If that does not frighten him, what does?
And it gets worse. The fungus needs food to live, so it begins to devour its host from within, replacing the ant's flesh with its own. But it doesn't let its victim die, no. It keeps its puppet alive by preventing decomposition.
The crowd, who represent us, the audience in this scene, grow quiet, grow tense as they hear the power such an infestation would have over us, as they learn about the total lack of any response we would have against it, and our protagonist squashes the main argument as to its impossibility, infecting us with the fear of probability.
No cures, they don't exist, it's not even possible to make them.
So if that happens,
we lose.
This is the reason why these 3.5 minutes of exposition work as a prologue, because the writers gave us a reason to care, not by introducing our protagonist or the inciting incident, but by connecting the cordyceps outbreak to our own lives, so that we can link our own personal experiences living through the pandemic to what the characters in the story are about to go through. It gives us not only what to expect, it gives us perspective. It gives us not only what to look forward to, but what to dread.